You probably watched something out of Korea. This week, a K-drama, a music video, a viral clip without thinking twice about it. For 20 years, one man's entire job was making sure North Koreans could never do the same. He was a secret police agent, and he shadowed athletes on trips abroad, pulling them back to their rooms the second they glanced at a stranger or reached for a foreign channel. Then, in the spring of 2025, he walked out the door with the 7 athletes. He was sent to guard, and it wasn't his first attempt to run.
If this story means something to you, please subscribe and hit the notification bell. Your support helps us bring more first-hand accounts from people who escaped North Korea. It all started like this.
My name is Kang Chulmin. I'm 38. I'm telling this from somewhere in South Korea now. But not long ago, I was a surveillance agent for North Korea's state security department, the secret police. My job was athletes. I stayed glued to the ones who traveled abroad, watching for any sign they might stray. If a wrestler locked eyes with a local in a hotel hallway, I pulled him back to his room. Restaurants with foreign broadcasts playing off limits. That was on me too. In North Korea, a state security family means something. My father was one of them. I joined at 20 and stayed 2 decades. We had an apartment in Rakreng district in Pyongyang. Our rations came fuller than most. Rice ran out for a lot of families back then. They survived on corn porridge, day after day. But there was always white rice on our table. My life was like watching the weather through glass. No storms, no hunger. Not for me. Mornings started with the corn noodles. My wife made, I'd watch my 10-year-old, Min Hyuk, head out with his backpack and smoke a cigarette, my one small pleasure. He'd run down the alley belting out songs praising the leader, like all the kids his age. I watched him go and felt proud. He'll grow up to serve the country, just like me. Back then, I believed I was protecting my nation. My grandfather fought with a rifle. In the Korean War, I fought the enemy within. The elders had given their lives for this country, and I was guarding it. That pride carried me. Through 20 years, watching athletes was honestly an easy post, trips abroad, hotel food. But there was one iron rule: never let them meet a local's eyes. Only North Korean channels on the TV. The moment you got curious about the outside world, that's where the cracks in your thinking began. That's what they taught me, and I believed it. For 20 years, that belief never once wavered, at least not until then. But here's fall of 2023. I picked up the roster for the next year's trip, and for no reason I could name, my hand shook. I didn't know what it meant. The thing. Looking back now, that was the first creak of something that had held firm for 20 years. Spring 2024. I took 7 athletes to an international competition in Southeast Asia. Same job as always. Stay close. Watch. At meals, at bedtime, I mapped their every move in my head. A wrestler in the bathroom. Too long I knocked. Someone staring out a window too. Long I'd drift over and start talking. Surveillance was in my bones. Natural as breathing. Then, the third night, a wrestler named Ri Sung-chul tapped on my door, mid-20s. But something in his eyes was different. Not fear, not excitement. The look of a man who'd thought long and hard and made up his mind. He kept his voice low. "Comrade, may I speak with you a moment?" My hand tensed on instinct. A sign of ideological drift? I'd reported plenty of men with that look before, but what he pulled out was a small phone. On the screen were things I'd never seen. News calling Pyongyang one of the poorest capitals on earth. Satellite images of prison camps. Testimonies from people who'd escaped. My first thought, fake. Lies cooked up by the enemy. But the eyes of the people on that screen looked too real. You can't fake eyes like that. If you knew, comrade, you wouldn't go back either. He said it and left. I didn't sleep that night. You know how it was? Our parents' generation heard it drilled into them. After the Korean War, how poor the South was, how evil the Americans were. I was raised on the same thing. But the world on that screen was nothing like what I'd been taught. They said the South was destitute. Yet the soul on that screen was brighter, richer than Pyongyang. What if the thing I'd guarded for 20 years was the very thing that had deceived me? That question wouldn't leave. It was the first thing in my head when I woke. It came back every night as I tried to sleep. Back in Pyongyang, I was a different man. On the outside, nothing changed. Inside, those videos played every night. When Min Hyuk sang the songs he'd learned at school, I knew they were all lies, and I still had to smile. That was the hardest part, being a father in a country that teaches your child to lie. He laughed, bright and clueless, and standing in front of that laugh, I felt myself breaking into pieces. Then one day, a senior agent I worked with just vanished. No announcement. He stopped showing up, and no one said his name again. Colleagues who used to pass me in the hall looked away. I couldn't ask. In North Korea, asking about someone who's gone is a danger in itself. We'd worked together over 10 years. Our kids were close in age. On holidays, we'd drop by each other's homes and share a drink. Later, someone whispered the truth. A report had gone up. He'd spoken with a local woman. During an overseas trip, straight to a prison camp. One conversation. In this country, a few words. Make a person disappear. That was the first time I felt it in my body. This system wasn't protecting me. It could throw me away any time. That night, I held my wife's hand. Said nothing. She held mine back. Nothing said. Summer 2024. I made my decision. At first, I meant to go alone. I told myself I'd bring my wife and Min Hyuk, later clear the path first, then send for them. I don't know how naive that was, but at the time, I believed it was the best way. Take the family, and you move slower. Get caught easier. The logic held, my heart didn't. The night before I left, I watched Min Hyuk sleep for a long time. 10 years old, dead to the world. His little fist clenched tight. His lips twitched now, and then dreaming. I laid my hand on his forehead. Daddy will come back. I only said it inside. Out loud, he might wake, and I might cry. The elders will understand what it does to a parent, leaving a child behind. And if you're not leaving, but running, how much heavier that gets. I made my way down near the border in North Hamgyong province. My state security ID got me through the checkpoints. I reached the Tumen River. It was narrower than I'd imagined. Cross it, and I'd be in China. The water was louder than I expected. Black current running in the dark. Standing there, I prayed for. The first time in my life, they taught me all my life. There was no God, but in that moment, I wanted to beg someone. My Father in heaven, my mother gone too soon. Then as I went to step into the water, flashlights cut through the dark. 1, 2, 3, a patrol. The beam hit me square in the face. My legs locked. I couldn't run, couldn't shout. I was taken right there. The first attempt ended like that. My state security ID saved me. A regular citizen would have gone straight to a camp. I scraped by with a line inspecting the patrol zone. The patrol chief studied my ID for a long time, then slowly nodded. That nod had never felt so long. But back in Pyongyang, I felt it. They'd started watching me. Now I was the one under surveillance. The man who'd watched others for 20 years now watched himself. I spent 3 months playing dead, laughing where I was supposed to laugh, clapping where I was supposed to clap. When it was time to shout the loyalty slogans, I shouted louder than anyone. And underneath, I looked for a second way. This time, a broker. I handed over money. I'd skimmed from my state security salary, little by little. His promised safe passage to China. No way to know if I could trust him. All I could do was trust. Winter 2024. I followed the broker across the border. This time the river was frozen. I crossed on foot over the ice. Every creak under my boots stopped my heart. When I set my first step on Chinese soil, tears came without warning. I'd made it. This time it worked. From here, things thought would be different. 3 days later, the broker sold me to Chinese police. They pay by the head for defectors. I knew it happened. I never thought it would happen to me. When the police stormed in, the broker stood there, hands behind his back, and pointed at me. I still can't forget his eyes. Nothing in them. To him, I was money. 1 hour before the repatriation van came, I kicked out a window in the holding shed and ran, barefoot, across a Chinese field at 4 below zero. The second attempt failed too. I snuck back into North Korea. There was no other way. 2 frostbitten toes I treated, them with folk remedies, barely. I told my wife. I'd been away on business. Min Hyuk asked why I was so thin. I smiled and said I'd eat a lot. He grabbed my cheeks with both hands. Dad, I missed you. My throat closed. I went into the bathroom, buried my face in a towel, and cried a long time. After 2 failures, I thought hard. Maybe I should quit. Looking at Min Hyuk's face, I wondered if just living like this was the right thing. Staying beside him as his father, maybe. That was the better choice. But I couldn't. My son growing up to watch people, the way I had that scared me more. I'd lived that life for 20 years. And now I knew my son couldn't. Around then, the roster for the next overseas trip came down. Ri Sung Chul's name was on it. And 6 more. I stopped reading. These men didn't want to come. Back, I could see it in their eyes. As the watcher, I already knew. You can't hide that look. Finding it was my job for 20 years. That night, I had to choose, report them and get promoted. Look away and take the risk. But there was a third choice. Go with them. Spring 2025, in a storage room at the competition lodging, I sat across from Ri Sung Chul. A single fluorescent light flickered. The room was damp and cramped. Neither of us spoke. Then I broke the silence. I'm going too. His eyes went wide. He stared at me a long moment. He couldn't believe a state security agent had said it. Then he nodded. That was all. No words needed. We'd both reached the same conclusion long ago. My part was simple. Use my state security. Clearance one last time. The lodging security system. The patrol schedule. The blind spots in the cameras. I knew all of it. The roles had flipped. The man sent to stop defections was now helping 1, 2M. I opened the door from the inside. 20 years of knowledge built to serve. The regime now spent slipping out of it. 7 of us scattered, then met at the rendezvous point. When all 8 of us stood there, no one missing, I heard someone swallow a sob. My own eyes burned. Through a network of Korean missionaries, we hid in a shipping container. 10 days inside it. Cold, hungry, afraid. When someone whispered, I'm hungry, like a moan, the person beside them quietly took their hand. Still, no one said give up. Then we stood at the door of a South Korean consulate in a third country. My hand shook as I knocked. After 2 failures, I couldn't believe I'd made it here. Through the intercom, a staffer asked, Where have you come from? It took me a while to answer. From North Korea. I'm former state security. Silence for a while. Of course they doubted it. A watchman had run away does. That even makes sense. But a moment later, the door opened. That sound, the door opening, was the biggest, heaviest sound of my whole life. The day I first set foot on South Korean soil, the sky was so blue. Walking the streets of Seoul, I kept glancing over my shoulder. Felt like someone was behind me. 20 years of habit. Don't vanish overnight. I walked into a convenience store and walked right back out. Too many things. I didn't know what to pick. At a grocery store, I froze in front of the fruit. So much fruit in one place, I couldn't tell if it was a dream. At Hanwon, the center, where North Korean defectors learned to live in the South, I watched news about North Korea, freely for the first time. How the world saw the system I'd guarded for 20 years. I was ashamed. And more than that I'd done that job. Inside it, my chest went tight. How many people had I reported? Where were they now? When that hit me, food wouldn't go down. One night, my counselor found a photo of Min Hyuk, taken in Pyongyang after my escape, she said. A school field day, him, running a race, laughing, crossing the finish line, both arms thrown up, his whole face lit with joy. I cried in front of that photo for an hour. He's alive. He's okay. And that alone I was grateful for. I still think about Min Hyuk 10 times a day, whether he knows why his father disappeared. Maybe he's been taught his dad is a bad man, a traitor. That's okay. Someday when we're reunited, I'll run straight to Pyongyang first. Whatever my son says when he sees me, I just want to hold him. That's the one thing I ask. The reunification our elders dreamed of all their lives for me, it's the road to my son. I hope that day comes in our lifetime. I'm not a watcher anymore, but this telling you what I saw and lived through, this I'll do to the end. Thank you for listening.